Imagine a man who was legally considered less than a human. A man whose worth was measured in pounds and ounces, like a bag of grain or a head of cattle. Now, imagine that same man standing on the deck of a powerful warship, in the middle of a war-torn harbor, wearing the uniform of the very men who enslaved him. This is not a legend. This is the heart-stopping, true story of Robert Smalls. It was the spring of 1862. The city of Charleston was a fortress of iron and fire. The Confederate Army had turned the harbor into a death trap, lined with hundreds of cannons and hidden underwater mines. Between the enslaved people of the city and the freedom of the sea stood the most terrifying fortifications in the world. Robert Smalls was a young man with a gift. He didn't just sail ships, he understood the water. He memorized every wave, every hidden rock, and every secret signal. He was the wheelman of the CSS Planter, a massive, armed steamer. To the white officers, he was just a shadow at the wheel. But in his mind, Robert was planning a revolution. The threat was real. The threat was immediate. His wife, Hannah, and their 2 children were about to be sold away, lost forever in the brutal labor of the Deep South. Robert had a choice: stay and watch his family be torn apart, or risk everything on a gamble that seemed like a suicide mission. On the night of May 12th, the opportunity arrived. The white officers felt so superior, so safe, that they broke military law. They left the ship for a night of partying in the city. The moment they stepped off that deck, the clock began to tick. Robert gathered his crew of 8 enslaved men. He told them the plan. Their eyes widened with terror. He told them, "We are taking the ship. We are picking up our families, and we are sailing past the forts." They made a blood oath that night. If the forts opened fire, they would blow the ship to splinters. They would rather die as free men in a ball of fire than live another day in chains. At 2 a.m., the fires were lit. The steam began to hiss. Every sound felt like a gunshot in the silence of the night. Robert steered the planter into the shadows, picking up his wife and children from a hidden dock. As they stepped aboard, the women and children were trembling. They were hidden in the hold, told to remain as silent as ghosts. At 3 a.m., Robert Smalls put on the captain's wide-brimmed straw hat. He put on the heavy captain's coat. He stood tall. He mimicked the captain's posture, leaning back, looking bored, looking confident. He pulled the whistle cord, 2 short blasts, 1 long, the signal for Fort Johnson. The sentry looked down from the high walls. He saw the hat, he saw the coat, and he saw the ship moving with perfect precision. "Pass, Planter," the voice rang out. But then came the final test, Fort Sumter, a massive stone monster in the middle of the water. The sun was starting to rise. The gray light of dawn was making everything visible. Robert knew that if a single guard looked through a spyglass, they would see his face. They would see he was a black man. The crew was praying. The families were clutching each other in the dark. Robert steered the ship directly under the guns of the fort. He didn't hide. He didn't speed up. He acted like he owned the harbor. He pulled the cord for the secret code, 3 short blasts, 1 long. The silence that followed was agonizing. Every second felt like a year. Then the command came from the walls, "Pass, Planter." As the fort faded into the distance, Robert didn't just speed up, he surged. He slammed the throttle to the wall. The paddle wheels thrashed the ocean. They were heading for the Union blockade, but the danger wasn't over. The Union ship, the USS Onward, saw a Confederate warship charging toward them. They prepared their cannons. They were seconds away from firing a broadside that would have killed everyone on board.
Robert screamed to his crew. They tore down the Confederate flags. Hannah Smalls ran forward with a white bedsheet, the most important cargo they carried. They hoisted it high. The Union sailors saw the white cloth, and he held his fire. When the Union sailors stepped on deck, they didn't find soldiers. They found a family. Robert Smalls stepped forward, took off the captain's hat, and said, "Good morning, sir. I've brought you some of the old United States guns." Robert Smalls became a hero that day. He didn't just steal his freedom, he earned his place in history. He became a captain in the Navy. He fought in 17 battles, and after the war, he returned to the house where he was once a slave, and he bought it. He lived in that house as a free man, a war hero, and a United States Congressman. He died in 1915 on the porch of that very house. Robert Smalls didn't just steal a ship, he stole his destiny. He proved that no matter how many chains they put on you, the human spirit is always unconquerable.